Evil Hero Rorschach's Journal, January 24th, 2025. The locals are just extended gutters, and the gutters are full of blood, and when the drain finally scabs over, all the vermin will drown. The accumulated filth of all their fiendsmith and cashtira will foam up about their waists, and all the meta sheep and net deckers will look up and shout, "Save us." And I'll look down and whisper, "Have you considered playing 9 bricks?" Good afternoon, jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-Minute Testing. Suda's officially out, so there's no better time to actually take a look at the card on the cover. Since this set's metagame impact is going to basically just be twins and one hand trap that hates Mondays, you might have forgotten that the man in front is a hero. Well, let's see what's changed with one of my favorite lists of all time. Presenting Hero. So here's the list from a Jaden BR video, link in the description. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is a one-stop shop for all things Yu-Gi-Oh! They're responsible for the pack opener that makes series-like progression possible. They've got strategy articles for those looking to flesh out their fundamentals. They're the most complete repository of deck lists and results from regionals and YCSs online. And they've also got cube and draft infrastructure that's finally seeing use now that Yu-Gi-Oh! Players have come to the light of Limited. There's a good chance that any Yu-Gi-Oh! Content you see on YouTube has Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck's many tendrils somewhere within its DNA. So why not go to the source and improve your game, draft with friends, or just see what 11-year-olds are playing in their Blue Eyes decks this month? Head on over to YGOPRODECK.com. Now back to the video. So with that, let's heckle Hero. Hero's a deck I've taken a look at once a week for the last 10 years. It's transformed over the decades from Blue Gadget to Little City to Bubble Beat to Darklaw to Omni Hero, where it stayed for the past half-decade. Its gameplay loop is simple. Resolve Ferris, summon out Vion, bin Malicious, and then use Cross Crusader to translate it into any hero you want. Over the years, its endboard has transformed to include Destiny Hero Plasma, Masked Hero Darklaw, Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, and Elemental Hero Shining Neos Wingman. It has overcome nearly every card that used to give it pause, from Negation to Nibiru. That's why I was ecstatic to hear we'd be getting new entries for the archetype's red-headed stepchildren, the Evil Heroes. Shoot, but I really don't know how positive I can be about them. The hits include Evil Hero Infernal Rider, a super polymerization searcher, Dead End Prison, another foolish burial, and Dark Supremacy, a sort of Omni-Negate, along with consistency tools for these cards in particular. Now you might be thinking to yourself that these sound like welcome additions to the deck, and they are, to a degree. Certainly Hero's happy to have more layered interaction, but the deck's starting to resemble coping branded brews, just without any of the good cards. Hero doesn't need to play another 9 one-ofs in order to finally access a Chungus negate if uninterrupted. They need a new playstyle. It's hard to look at a format full of Ryziel and Malice decks with 1,000 one-card combos at endless redundancy, and then voluntarily elect to play a strategy with no less than 18 cards you'd prefer remain in your deck. So with that, let's get into the card by card. A little counterintuitively, let's begin with the cards you already know. We've got 1 copy of Elemental Hero Neos, 1 Plasma, triple Malicious, thank goodness, triple Ferris, double Stratos, 1 copy of Shadow Mist, 2 Vion, 1 Denier, and 1 Increase. You could go up to 2, but I don't fear God. After that, we've got 3 copies of A Hero Lives, 3 copies of Fusion Destiny, 1 Mask Change, of course, searchable by way of the special summon of Shadow Mist via Wake Up Your Elemental Hero, Miracle Fusion, Polymerization, Dark Fusion, Super Polymerization, and Favorite Contact for non-engine. We've got Called by the Grave, triple Ash Blossom, triple Fuelos, triple Infinite Impermanence, and triple Forbidden Droplet. Let's talk about the Evil Heroes. Evil Hero Infernal Rider is a Wind Fiend, and if normally special summoned, can add a Dark Fusion from your deck or graveyard to your hand. It can be banished from the graveyard alongside 4 other monsters to set a Super Poly from deck, and you are hero locked, but you can fusion summon monsters that must be special summoned with Dark Fusion using other cards' effects. That effect ends at the end of your opponent's turn, which means that your Super Polymerization's use case is going to be pretty limited. After that, we've got Evil Hero Dead End Prison. If you control a fusion monster that has to be special summoned with Dark Fusion, you can special this from your hand, but usually you're going to be specialing it with a card we're about to get to in the spell column. This card has an ignition effect, which allows you to send a hero monster from your deck to the graveyard, and then if you fusion summon a hero monster this turn, this can be a substitute for any named monster on that card. It's like Prisma if Prisma was everything instead of one thing. Sinister Necrom can be banished from the graveyard, especially an evil hero from your hand or deck, and a Dusted Gold can be pitched in order to add this card, 3 copies of Evil Assault. This card allows you to discard a card, which would you believe is kind of a buff. Frequently you end up with a couple of cards in hand that both need to be discarded by Ferris, and now you don't have to do that. Anyway, this card allows you to take a level 4 lower evil hero from your deck and either add it to your hand or special summon it, and you are hero locked from the extra deck for the remainder of the turn. If this card is in your graveyard, except the turn it was sent there, you can banish it from your graveyard to add a Dark Fusion from your graveyard to your hand. After that, we've got Dark Contact, which allows you to do one of the following 2 effects. Either add a Supreme King Castle or Dark Fusion from your deck to your hand, or, more realistically, fusion summon a fusion monster from your extra deck that has to be special summoned with Dark Fusion by shuffling its materials from your field, graveyard, and banishment into the deck, and that's treated as a Dark Fusion summon. Finally, we've got Dark Supremacy, which allows you to target face-up cards your opponent controls up to the number of Dark Fusion and spells that mention it, negate their effects until the end of the turn, and if this card is in your graveyard except the turn it was sent there, you can banish it, target up to 5 hero monsters in your graveyard or banishment, and shuffle them into the deck. That's right, it maliciouses a second time. Let's talk about the old hits in the extra deck. We have 2 copies of Cross Crusader, 1 copy of Infernal Devicer to grab a Neos, and 1 copy of a Wonder Driver to let you use 2 polymerizations, even though you're only playing 1. A Master Hero Dogclaw, an Elemental Hero Sunrise, a Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer, an Infernal Rage to get a favorite contact, a copy of Shining Neos Wingman to pop the entire field, and a Wake Up Your Elemental Hero for OTKs and for setting up Darklaw. The new stuff in here includes Elemental Hero Inferno Wing Backfire. So this has to be made with Avion and Burstinatrix, but more realistically will be made with Dead End Prison and 1 hero monster. If special summoned, you can add a Dark Fusion or a card that mentions it from your deck or graveyard to your hand. This is pretty good. There's a number of those cards, but usually you're going to be using it to get Dark Contact or Dark Supremacy. If your hero monster destroys an opponent's monster by battle, they take 2100, which is hilarious that it is still being printed on the card. Evil Hero Darkest Night might as well be a vanilla. The important part of this card is it's made with a Fiend and a Warrior monster, and it's a fusion that can be made with the card Dark Fusion. It causes your opponent's monsters to lose a lot of attack relative to the attack used for this monster's fusion summon, and it gets to attack twice, and if it leaves the field by your opponent's card, you can target a Fiend or Warrior monster in your graveyard, special and in defense position. Realistically, he's just sticking around. We've got Malicious Bane making an appearance from 2019, thanks to the fact that you frequently just have the requisite amount of material to make this guy, and he actually is quite good for OTKs. And finally, we have 2 copies of Evil Hero Neos Lord. Has to be special summoned with Dark Fusion, can be destroyed by battle, or card effects if this card is special summoned or a monster is sent from your opponent's graveyard while this card is on the field. You can target a face-up monster your opponent controls, take control of it. That's a once per turn. Now, how do we make this card? So, Elemental Hero Shining Neos Wingman is a monster that mentions Elemental Hero Neos, which fulfills the first prong of that. 1 effect monster on the field fulfills the second, which means the use case for this card is to be super polymerizationed into after setting the card off of Infernal Rider and then afterwards resolving favorite contact to get to Shining Neos Wingman. That's right. The solution to Hero's problem, as per the new cards released by Konami, is to give them more stuff to do after Shining Neos Wingman pops your opponent's entire field. You can see how this is kind of underwhelming. For some reason, you are expected to get to the point where your opponent theoretically cannot continue to play Yu-Gi-Oh! And go even further beyond for no other reason than to make this guy, who takes up 2 slots in the extra deck because theoretically you want to be able to make him a second time. It's kind of frustrating that the direction that they have chosen to go with the new support is to mandate that you include all of these nefarious bricks in your list just to access a card that theoretically should never make it onto the field in the first place. Well, Evil Assault is kind of a hero lives if you squint your eyes. With that, let's jump into some games. Our first match is up against Raid Raptor, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, I just want to show off one of the 1-card combos in this. We're going to begin with a copy of Evil Hero Dusted Gold. That's going to grab us a copy of Evil Assault to our hand, which will activate pitching a copy of Malicious in order to summon from deck a copy of Dead End Prison. We'll activate the effect of the Dead End Prison to send a copy of Shadow Mist, whose effect we will activate in order to grab from deck to hand a copy of Vion, which we will normal. We'll activate the effect of the Vion in order to bind a copy of Denier. That's just icing on the cake. And then Vion in order to grab a Poly, and let's get Maliciousing. Malicious and a Vion away for a Cross Crusader. Remember, 2 warriors on this card, so we can't send the Dead End Prison. Prison, and then Cross Crusader for a copy of Sinister Necrom. We're going to special summon a Malicious from deck, then afterwards we're going to go ahead and link off for an Infernal Devicer, which gets us from deck to hand a copy of Elemental Hero Neos. Next, we're going to Polymerization, sending that Necrom to the graveyard for a Sunrise effect in order to grab a copy of Miracle Fusion, then Necrom in order to summon our 6-star Infernal Rider. Infernal Rider triggers here in order to grab a Dark Fusion, which we will then activate in order to get these two off the board for an Inferno Wing Backfire. That's going to grab us a Dark Contact, and we'll go into a Wonder Driver. Dark Contact here is going to shuffle a bunch of cards back into the graveyard in order to make a Darkest Night in the column of the Wonder Driver so we can reset a Polymerization. Finally, Miracle Fusion for a copy of Infernal Rage. Infernal Rage effect in order to grab a Favorite Contact. Last Malicious activation here, 1 bonus off of the reshuffle into a Polymerization into a Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. Finally, let's set a copy of Super Polymerization, set a Favorite Contact, and a Forbidden Droplet as well, passing back to our opponent with 2 hand traps. They'll begin with the Book of Eclipse, and thankfully we have an Ash Blossom for that. Afterwards, we're going to go ahead and normal summon a copy of Tribute Lanius because that's an ignition. I'm going to fire off the DPE to be met with a Cowrie. No big deal. We will go ahead and pop the Cowrie, at which point we'll trigger the effect of the DPE, and they will go for a Bloom Vulture, summoning a monster from their hand. From here, we're going to flip this copy of Favorite Contact in order to put 2 cards back and special summon a Shining Neo Swingman. Theoretically, we could use the Super Polymerization here to go into the big guy, but no need. So that's how the deck performs on the play, but what does it do on the draw? Well, unfortunately, not too much. You can see this is about as good a hand as we could have possibly opened. It's got a Stratos, it's got a Ferris, it's got a Super Polymerization, and it's got a card like Denier that you really do want to be discarding for a Ferris so that it can represent some sort of extension if you get interrupted. Our opponent is on the Azamina Lore deck. I'm super excited to see how this deck evolves. At present, it feels kind of like an undercooked Branded, but our opponent is really chefing up something special here. They're going to begin with a copy of Debtors. After that, they're going to go into a Mercy Alago, which will trigger in the same chain as this Queen Azamina. They're going to go ahead and grab a copy of Determination to go into Diabellstar. Diabellstar here is going to set a copy of Deception, which can then be activated in order to go ahead and pop this Queen Azamina and grab a card. Afterwards, they'll summon a Diabells and Hallowed Azamina in order to go into Saint Azamina. They will set a card, activate Saint to go into Moa Regina, into a copy of Masquerena, and then bring back this copy of Diabells. Finally, this Hallowed Azamina will go ahead and add itself back to hand, and they're going to go ahead and set this Morian as well. And end phase, they'll trigger the effect of the Deception and set it, and we're off to the races. Okay, we're going to begin with a copy of Evil Assault. Unfortunately, we have to set everything before we go for it because of the Diabells, so I set the Super Poly first, hoping that they will just shotgun it. They don't. We'll go for Dead in Prison. It's a prime target for the book effect of this card. We'll go for the Ferris and try to chase out the Masquerena. That will instead chase out Determination, which will go ahead and send 2 cards from our field to the graveyard alongside the Moa Regina, and they will go into the Reton in order to send this Ferris to the graveyard as well. In main 2, we can use Stratos in order to grab a card from our deck to our hand, which I guess gets a Dusted Gold, but wouldn't you know it, there's not too much we can actually do with this card. As we set the Dark Contact, they'll go ahead and pop it with the Diabells, and we'll scoop them up. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's playing what else but Fiendsmith Raziel, and unfortunately, despite our hand looking pretty good, we're about to run into one of the #1 predators for this strategy, Fualos. As I see the first Fualos, I'm doing calculations in my head, thinking how many draws I want to give my opponent. Then I see the second and decide the answer is 0. We're going to go Ferris Pass. Our opponent's going to lead with an X. They'll Aggregator, negating the effect of the Ferris, no big deal there. And then afterwards, we're going to go ahead and special out the Sword Raziel, activating the effect to grab an Ice. From here, they're going to overlay for a Duo Drive. We'll go for the increase here, and then summon the increase to our side of the field, which gets ashed. Afterwards, they will go for the effect of the Duo Drive, which is worth an Imperm, I think. Then afterwards, we're going to go ahead and normal summon this copy of Ice, activating its effect to summon from deck a copy of Node. From this position, they can Bonfire for another Ice, send the spent Duo Drive, and then overlay for a 3-mat copy of Detonator, which will be able to attach a Mirror Logic Aggregator, a Detonator and a Dream. There are some draws we have that could theoretically get us out of this, but that is not one of them. We're going to go Mali first and foremost. Then afterwards, we're going to go to the battle phase to set up an increase play. Realistically, this is likely just going to get a material off the Detonator. I kind of have to hope my opponent screws up and doesn't view this card as a threat, but there's no reason they wouldn't. We can at least Dark Contact here for a copy of Dark Fusion, and I think we theoretically have something we can go into, but not worth it into the draw. Our opponent doesn't have too much going either. Raziel kind of struggles to turn the corner a lot of the time, though they're in control of this game. They have no way to OTK. We'll keep this Ash in our hand. They draw a copy of Sword Raziel. That is probably worth the Ash from us. Then afterwards, we're going to get in for 45, which is notably not lethal. Looks like we've got exactly one more thing we can theoretically do here against a Raziel Detonator that is now down to 2 pieces of material, and the Vion is not bad. They will go Detonator, target the increase, and then Chain Forbidden Droplet, though. Oh, God. Okay, nothing we can do about that. So it's time for game 2, and okay, this hand is not terrible. Vision Hero Ferris pitching a copy of Evil Hero Dead End Prison is fine. It's just unfortunate because Dead End Prison is so critical to so many of the new setups. We're just going to go increase for a copy of Vion, then we'll activate the effect of the Vion in order to send a copy of Malicious to the graveyard into a Cross Crusader, bring back the Malicious, and from here we're going to go for a Sinister Necrom line. I screwed this up a little. I think I don't actually use my normal summon this turn. Theoretically, we could have always used the extra material and gone into a Stratos into the Sinister Necrom, but whatever. We're going to go Infernal Devicer into Polymerization so we can get that Sinister Necrom in the graveyard with the Sunrise, activate the effect of the Sunrise for a copy of Miracle Fusion and the Sinister Necrom in order to summon a copy of Infernal Rider. Infernal Rider is going to go ahead and grab us a copy of Dark Fusion, and then we'll link off for a Wonder Driver, activate a Malicious, summoning to the Wonder Driver link point, and resetting this copy of Polymerization. After that, we're just going to go ahead and fire the Polymerization to get both these off the field for a DPE, then Miracle Fusion, sending this copy of Wonder Driver in the EMZ because we need every single card in our graveyard to set the Super Polymerization. At end step, we're going to go DPE, pop this copy of Wake Up, so that we can trigger the effect of the Wake Up and the effect of the DPE in sequence for a Shadow Mist. Shadow Mist effect in order to grab a Mask Change, and the reason we're doing this in end phase instead of getting the extra add off of the Shadow Mist is because we want to play around Nibiru. We're going to go to the standby phase, bring back the DPE, and our opponent's going to go for Tract. Tract here is going to banish a copy of Triple Tack, which is unfortunate because I know there's now another one coming. I'm hoping I snipe it with the Dark Law. I don't. I go ahead and pop the Triple Tack and the DPE because I don't really care about them getting a Dark Law per se. Importantly, that's a warrior, so as they normal summon the Fiend Lacrima, I'm actually able to Darkest Night it. We'll Ash the Bonfire, they'll set one, and oh my god, we're actually in control of a game. We're going to bring back this copy of DPE. We'll get in for, I don't know, 16, 16, and 25, but still not lethal. We can use the effect of the DPE in order to pop both the Darkest Night and the Unknown, and then we'll pass back to our opponent who has one draw. That's the literal best draw on their deck. Okay, all right. They're going to go for Tract here. Tract is going to get them a copy of Lurie. They'll pitch the Lurie, summon the Lurie. We probably have to DPE this. We will do that now in order to send the Lurie to the graveyard, and then afterwards we can activate the Fuelos again. Of course, our opponent is going to be able to use the effect of the Engraver to summon it to their side of the field. Then afterwards it can link off for a Requiem, which draws us a card. Activate the Requiem to get a copy of Lacrima, which draws us a card. Trigger the effect of the Lacrima in order to send the Fiendsmith in Paradise and go to the battle phase and hit for 12. We'll go increase here, attaching it to our back row, and we should be fine as we bring back this copy of DPE, but let's just go to the battle phase and hope for the best. Okay, awesome. So it's time for that all-important Game 3, and as you can see, we've drawn almost no non-engine, but thankfully our opponent hasn't drawn much engine. Maybe it evens out. They're going to begin with a copy of X, sending Twins, then afterwards they're going to grab a Sword, special the Sword, and overlay for Detonator early. As I see them add the ice, I realize actually what they're going to do here is go Detonator plus Abyss Dweller, which I can't beat. So we have to Ash the ice, even though it feels terrible, hoping for the best, and thankfully it works out. We draw for turn, weird hand here. We're going to go for Evil Assault. That gets ashed, but we pitch a Sinister Necrom. Now the Necrom could theoretically get Infernal Rider, but I'm going to try and send it off the FD, so it's guaranteed in the graveyard, and the DPE chases out back row. The Imperm comes down, so at least we got one. We're going to go for the Malicious here. They chain Detonator, which feels like a little bit of a waste. It just gets material off our side of the board because we get to trigger the DPE in graveyard. Then we can normal summon the Stratos to grab a hero, but their last unknown is Forbidden Droplet. Oh no. We'll go for Cross Crusader here, bringing back the DPE. They're going to go ahead and Detonator as well, but now it's down to one material, and it's way lower than the DPE, so we can strand it on 0, then summon it back on our standby phase, pop the Detonator, and maybe we win. We'll go for Infernal Devicer because, of course, we've already activated the DPE. It's coming back, so we can have the Neos, and now we have the requisite amount of material in the graveyard to set a copy of Super Polymerization. Our opponent draws for turn. It's Bonfire. You got to be kidding me. Droplet sending this Detonator, and then they will fire the Bonfire. How far can they go off of an X? They'll go X tier, setting a Mirror Logic Aggregator, negating the effect of the Infernal Devicer, and using the X to get a copy of Sword. From here, they're going to go for Sword effect in order to grab a copy of Ice, and then afterwards they're going to overlay for an Abyss Dweller. Normally Ice, that Ice is going to bring back from their deck a copy of Node, and then the Abyss Dweller will fire, at which point they will overlay for a Detonator, trigger the effect of the Detonator to equip the Twins, and go to the battle phase cleaning up the board. We, of course, can't activate the effect of our DPE, and things are looking very bleak. Okay. Well, Called By is not bad. They will go for Abyss Dweller. I think I'm going to try Vion. They will Detonator here, targeting the Super Polymerization. We will Called By targeting the Detonator, but they still get to chain the Detonator. Maybe not the smartest play on my part. Afterwards, we are going to be able to resolve this effect, so we're actually just going to send the Increase under the assumption we'll be able to get it next turn, and there's a lot of live draws that let us actually play the game. Increase goes to our side of the field. They will go for Detonator, link off for a Moon of the Closed Heavens so they can trigger the effect of the Twins and loop this copy of Dweller. You got to be kidding me. We draw a copy of Dead End Prison here, but suddenly I'm realizing nothing on their board has any staying power. We're going to use the effect of the Dead End Prison. They'll negate it with the effect of Forbidden Droplet, but it sends for cost, so I'm feeling really good, actually. Increase is going to grab us a copy of Vion. We'll use the effect of the Vion in order to send a copy of a Dusted Gold. Then Vion banishing the Devicer for a copy of Polymerization, link off for a Cross Crusader, and bring back this DPE. Suddenly, I feel like we're kind of in the driver's seat. We get in for a lot, and they have one draw left. Sans Bonfire. I think we can probably beat anything. It's a Droll and Lockbird, and somehow we have walked with this. So we're back with the deck, and okay, I know we took those games, but I don't know. I want to be hopeful about Hero, but I think I'd be doing you a disservice if I wasn't more realistic. Let's talk about the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1, the new cards are good. Dead End Prison is a nice substitute for Vion, who is otherwise a negation magnet. Infernal Rider whips ass, and there is a lot of utility in Dark Supremacy. 2, the deck's end boards are super customizable. In games 2 and 3, you can make a board tailored exactly to beat your opponent's strategy. And 3, there are a ton of 1 cards. A Hero Lives, a Dusted Gold, and Pals, and a minimum comport to modern design philosophy. And the cons. 1, nothing works exactly like you'd like it to. The evil heroes aren't dark, so you can't lead FD in order to chase out interaction, which is a problem because Dead End is a negate magnet. Almost always you're choosing between Dark Contact or Supremacy, and your best combos need both. The Super Poly set is awesome, but it's wasted in a deck that doesn't get access to Garura and Muddragon, since those aren't heroes, and therefore can't be made the same turn you're setting up. There's just a lot of really, really frustrating interactions like this. 2, it is so poorly positioned, you really do fall over to every single hand trap in the game. Fuwalos, Bestials, Droll, and out of the board you have to contend with Shifter, Prison, Lancia, all designed to beat better decks than you. And don't get me started on Dweller. And 3, there isn't really a 5-card hand you can draw that doesn't cut some options off from you. Increase, of course, is number 1, but there's tons of cards that compete for the Ferris pitch, 2 Maliciouses, 2 early discards that should be weaved into the combo. It's almost better on simulators where you get to start with a single card hand. All in all, man, this is disappointing. I can't remember the last time I took a look at Legacy support and ended up concluding it made a deck worse, but I can't in good conscience defend a deck that's now 20% Garnet by volume and adding more one-ofs by the day to raise its ceiling while it still lays down in the street against a single Magnamut. I almost want to do this one again, but from a different perspective, maybe eschewing dozens of the must-play hero cards to do something like that Fiendsmith version that's popular online. Let me know what you think, but for now, I'm out. So that's that. Thanks so much for watching. These videos are completely funded by, and occasionally suggested by, my patrons, some of whom have paid top dollar to be announced at the end of the 10-minute testings. Here are those people now for whom I am permanently indebted. About 99 Donuts, Elena Tincher, Alex Perea, Allison Elliott, Ally, APK, Pearly Tier 0, Brett Henry, Cool Name, Damon O'Neill, Dark Rebel XYZ, Derpin Dragon, DJ Elefante, NB Adams, FPS Lord Derp, Garrett Ran, Hergalicious, Knight Mary, Legal Rights, Lockstone, Luis Hernandez, Lullaby of Souls, Master of Faster, Matthew M. Derezzo, MBT Play Madolce, Mike Carlotti, N54 Lionheart, Nacho Gonzalez, Nebula Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pombo, Project Mercury, Rohan Doge, Rose Lapine, Serpentax, Shelby Piet, Sly Ninja 43, Soul CLG, Troy Says By Erasure Is Gay, Who's Nick, Wonder Waffle, and Yukika Zami. Couldn't have done it without you.